make sure it starts at 12.
Good luck on that.
Yeah, well, you know
You
what?
are live.
Okay, we're live. Okay, welcome everybody to the Legislative Rules and Governmental Operations Committee. Today is June 30th, 2022. It's 9:01 a.m. And we're gonna just do the minutes, and then we're gonna go a little out of order for the agenda, just because there's some people that can't be here in the early part of this meeting. So has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes of June 7th, 2022 for the Legislative Rules and Government Operations Committee? Okay, motion to approve. Let me get this right. Supervisor Driscoll, Supervisor Thomas seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. Can we next go to Julie Butler, who's present? Julie, you want to discuss purchasing changes?
Yes, there's very few changes this year. What I do is I canvass the departments and anybody that's involved in purchasing within the departments to see if they have any comments. Typically, the only thing that's requested is that we raise the purchase order threshold, which we're in line with what most of the other counties are doing. So I'm not really open to that change yet. If more counties start raising their PO thresholds, then I will. On page 1, the only change I made was that I took the year off under policy and I added an updated date. The reason I did that was because we only have to adopt the revisions annually and it doesn't have to be effective January 1st. So I get departments that on occasion will ask me for a new policy as of January, the beginning of January. So it's kind of misleading if I have the year under the title of the policy. The second change is on page 4 and it has to do with state contract. I added a sentence at the end of paragraph 3. And it just says they have to read the how-to instructions for each contract, because you used to be able to go to state contract and just choose from the pre-qualified vendors and just buy whatever you were looking for. Now, on a lot of state contracts, they require you to go through a second tier competitive process. So I want to make sure that everybody's doing that before they submit their purchase orders. And then the only other change was the name of my committee, which is on page 27, and that's highlighted. I update that every year if there's a change to the committee name. So those are the only changes this year.
Any questions for Julie? Yeah, I'm just looking on Zoom. Did we just lose a member?
I think she's here. I think she'll be walking through that.
Oh, okay. And so will Peter McDevitt. He thought it was at 10. Yes,
I'll move to bring this to the floor for consideration.
Supervisor Connor makes a motion. Supervisor Driscoll seconds. Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a vote to approve the changes as illustrated by Julie Butler today. Motion to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Passes. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Let's do IT. Michael Colvin.
Morning.
Morning.
So the gist of the resolution I'm asking for is we do custom programming for nearly every department in the county, anywhere from just small apps to apps that run the whole department, to filling gaps within vendor software they have. And, we've had an open position for a programmer for quite some time, and it's very difficult. And the last time we got somebody, it was about 2 years to get the person really up to where we need to be. It's kind of a long learning curve. and getting experienced people is extremely difficult. So we're taking a step back and figure like, how can we solve our issue now and make it easier in the future? Because people do come and go. So the programming interface we use, things have changed. And if we found a new one that has a much simpler learning curve. So we broadened the pool of people we can train, and we're looking like a 6-month learning curve as opposed to 2 years. So of course that sounds grand, but that also means money, another grand. So it means we currently pay about $6,000 a year for the programming interface we use. And if we were to go to this other one, it would be over a 10-year period, it averages out to about $26,000 a year. Less in the beginning, more over time, but if you divide that time frame out, looking to switch that to fix our issue. When we were looking at the contract with this company, because we would need some predictability, we did work out like it's a 5-year contract with a 5-year extension where all the numbers are guaranteed and known today. But anything more than a day is kind of gets old in technology. So we also had a clause in there that we could cancel within 30 days notice at any time. So we're not locked in for 5 years or 10 years. So the resolution I want to bring up today is to see if we can move forward with this company to change our interface to solve this issue. The initial money this year to get started, kind of like the same way we accomplished programming earlier this year that we were behind on, is use that salary for the job we couldn't fix, that we can't fill. So that would make us all right for this year, but it would mean an increase of my budget of like $2,000 a month for next year, so $24,000 next year, and then a gradual increase each year. So it's either if we're going to continue to provide services, those services we got to make a change of some sort, and significantly cheaper than doubling our salary trying to reach somebody. And even then, that 2-year gap is it's hard to swallow to get caught up again. So we think this is a much cheaper alternative to be able to keep what we're doing and move forward, and at least have a 10-year idea of where we know the costs are going if the platform works out, and we have our escape if it doesn't.
So in brief, Michael, this programming interface, which will be 25 grand per year, at least for now.
Yeah.
Will allow a lot of people to have a lower skill set to be able to deal with this and change programs and so forth. Because if you had to hire somebody that had to be at that higher level, it'd be probably more than the 25 grand.
Significantly more.
Yeah. So I get questions for Colvin. Yes, Ben.
Just thank you, Chairman. Mike, good morning. And it seems to me that in my close to 5 years up here, every year your duties and responsibilities increase as more and more need to do this, address this issue, and that type of stuff. So, in fact, you're getting more bang for the buck because you're having additional duties and responsibilities and programs and all that IT stuff that you guys do. So really, it makes sense that we're probably going to have to spend more each month.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is basically a 5-year request.
Yeah, so the contract is written for 5 years to work with them with a 30-day cancellation notice. Because technology, we've been beating this around for almost a year. The last several months, we're really beating it around to finally pick something we think will work. But like I said, I'm just knowing IT, it just changes so much. We think it's going to work. The salesman says it works because they always say it does. But yeah, so we're asking for a 5-year commitment, but we can bail out with 30 days notice at any time. And then like we actually have in the contract that the second 5 years are guaranteed at a certain rate. So we know we don't want to be going to this 5 years, it works out great. And all of a sudden there's a big surprise of an increase in money. So at least for 10 years, we know where we're going if it all works out.
Okay. Additional questions, thoughts?
Well, I'll bring it forward for consideration.
All right, motion made to approve the request made by Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Thomas. Additional discussion? Yes, Supervisor
very creative, smart way to proceed. I was a little concerned until I saw the service duration that you can terminate within 30 days. And I think that's important because this is a changing situation, not only on our end, but on their end as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a wise provision to have within the agreement. And just one other question, any information that they develop or have on file is owned by us. In other words, we have the right to that information at all times. And
Yeah, all that information lives here. It doesn't live out there. They provide the software, we install it here,
I see.
do our stuff. What they have is a license key that might break it if we don't pay our subscription.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions? Okay, none. Let's do a vote. All those in favor of the proposal?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Proposal passes.
So my second resolution request is to move money from the salaries that we aren't spending this year to cover the remainder of this year for $12,000.
Okay, motion made by Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Driscoll. Discussion? Vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions? Motion passes.
And my last request is a computer reserve fund request to transfer money for some anticipated licenses for our sheriff's office servers and for a badge printer for HR. So the good news in HR is the vendor supplied a quote for a little over $5,000 and we found a way to do it for just under $1,000. So we beat the bushes and found a better way there. So those are anticipated things and for us to move that money to get those projects done.
Okay. Discussion?
I'll move that.
Moved by Supervisor Thomas. Seconded by Supervisor Seaver. Further questions from Mike Colvin on the third resolution? Seeing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions? Passes.
And that's all I've got for today, unless somebody's got some questions for me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Colvin. All right. Pam, you want to go next? You're standing. All right, so county clerk Vogel has some things before the Government Ops Committee. First one, create a new position.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we have before you today, I just want to point out, you've got a kind of a revised summary there. We've got 3 action items, resolutions involving that new position and also additional resolution that came to me basically through the county attorney's office. And then some just informational items, some reports to share with you, kind of year-to-date activity in the clerk and DMV offices. With that being said, you know, I would like to address that legal recording clerk. Just a little background, what we're attempting to do is to replace a previously approved recording clerk position, which was vacant last summer in the clerk's office, with the title of legal recording clerk. Now, back last summer, at the end of the summer, we had 2 positions that became vacant. One of them was called recording clerk. One of them was called legal recording clerk. Both of those were filled provisionally last fall, and the people have been working them. They were followed by a request for testing. The test for the legal recording clerk came through in February and was done. And everybody in the office that was eligible took that test. The recording clerk test, civil service test, did not come through. I don't know where it is in the plan or anything like that, whether it will eventually come through. But ultimately, in discussion with civil service, our attempt is really to get to one title in the lower ranks of the clerk's office, rather than have these multiple titles, similar duties, slightly different tasks, but that is the nature of the office. At any rate, you do have to separate the tasks out, but the description and the duties overall are the same. So that being said, that is the background. And so we're, in order for, we have the list. And from that list, the number one position was 100%. That is in fact the person that was provisionally a recording clerk. We don't have the test for that, but she is tested in legal recording. We're opting to move that to a legal recording clerk title and then replace or defund recording clerk. No additional monies, all the same dollars, same grade. That's where we are right now. We ask your consideration.
All right, so in summary, we want to defund the recording clerk. We want to change that position to legal recording clerk, same grade, same salary. And discussion, if we do a motion, I would just as soon do 1 and 2 together. But discussion, Supervisor Conover.
I'll move 1 and 2 to bring it forward for discussion. Then I have a question.
Well, 1 and 2 are related. 3 is a little bit different. Do you want to move them all 3 together? Or
No, 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Second on 1 and 2, Supervisor Frazier. Other questions? Yes, Supervisor
Yeah, I
Conover.
mean, absent an argument, why we should do this? Why wouldn't we do this? It's the same grade, it's the same salary. The description of duties is very comparable. I don't see any
I
downside
don't see either.
for doing this.
Mr. Supervisor, we have done that. There is precedent for this. We have done it in the past as well. Again, to kind of correct the organizational chart within the clerk's office. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, let's put it to vote. All those in favor of resolution 1 to create new position and 2 to fill position for legal recording clerk, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions? Motion passes. All right. County Clerk Vogel, can we go to the third item?
Yes, so the county attorney brought to my attention last week. We have the new schedule, which we've adopted for records retention and disposition for all county government departments. And in fact, the new schedule actually covers all the municipalities. It's a combined schedule, towns, villages, and counties. With this, with the adoption of the LGS 1, it also becomes like the subject matter list for purposes of FOIL in the county. And in the past, the CO1 and the CO2 served in that function. But now with a new schedule called the LGS 1, we would need a resolution to adopt the LGS 1 as the subject matter list for Warren County. And ultimately, that would be an annual resolution that you would do, just like you do newspapers at the beginning of the year at organizational.
Which is basically in line with New York State's requirements, if I'm not mistaken.
That would be correct, sir.
Motion to approve record schedule as presented. Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Conover. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Motion passes.
And the next two items are basically informational. When we come together, we typically like to look at an updated view of the county clerk's revenue streams, et cetera, year to date. So in the long piece that you have, the long report, which is also posted online. These go up every month. once we're finished reconciling. And you will see that we are, highlighting or at least marking there on your photocopies, the basic tax, basic mortgage tax, the local mortgage tax, and the additional. And as you know, the local and additional remain with Warren County. Also on your agenda, I did outline the year-to-date for mortgage tax, local and additional, and also the comparison to last year. So I think we're doing, fairly well under all the circumstances. I don't know if June is going to be quite the same, but we keep moving through the year on it. So mortgage tax data is there, and that is for your consider, just to look at. We'll be discussing it certainly during the budget review process. That's where it'll come under, close scrutiny, and we'll be able to examine, about 8 months into the year at that point. So it will become the guideline for us making decisions for the 2023 budget. So that is on the clerk. And of course, within the clerk, you will also find DMV monies that come over from the DMV to the clerk and then make their way to the treasurer. So hopefully that up-to-date, year-to-date is helpful to you. And in addition, we also have financials. Oh. Sorry. Financials and transaction data on DMV. These reports, again, are also on the website under clerk by the numbers. And so you can look at those and kind of watch for those each month as they become available. And with that, we also put in our 2020 and our 2021 activity as well. Average monthly transactions right now are running about 5,000 transactions per month. And we're in line for meeting last year's at this point in time. So I think you have, the information there. Take your time with it, look through it. And again, that will be another area that we'll be looking at when budget time arrives. That's all I have.
Okay, all right, thank you. Discussion, Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I'm going to ask this question and then I'm going to get on Zoom and I have to run for an appointment, but I will be able to hear more of this discussion. When I'm looking at the revenue comparison, unless I'm reading this wrong, and let me know, in 2021, it looks like we're about even or up, or 2020, but compared to 2021, our revenue in DMV is significantly reduced. And I have, over the last several months, spoken with our county administrator and our chairman, and of course, many constituents who have been frustrated by not being able to walk into the DMV. And many have said to me, they've just gone home and done the transaction online. And I know we still get a small percentage from that, but it's not the same as if they were able to come in. And frankly, for some, it's not even about putting the revenue back into the county. It becomes more about the service that's available to them. And I was just wondering, for purposes of being able to refer residents that are asking about it to this type of a meeting, and I'm glad to see you here. What can you?
Of course I would be here.
Well, it's been something over the last several months that I know I've asked a lot of questions about, but what can we do to help or to compromise or to find a way to be able to take some walk-ins? I know a lot of it's a staffing issue. Is there a way to be able to help with a request to other municipalities or a different way with the hiring? I mean, what is a board, if anything, can we do? And I, of course, respect the fact you're elected. I know though you're making your calls, but I know you work really well with us. I've sent your phone number out quite a bit to people, but how can we help increase these revenues and provide that essential service to our constituents?
Well, I believe that we, number one, are providing essential services with the numbers that we're doing, which are in line with basically the last 3 years. And even the year before, the 2019 was an exceptional year where we hit 70,000, but it was a very different year than what we've been experiencing since. So I do believe that we're doing that and our monies are, transactions are never apple to apple, they vary across. Every person that walks in has a different transaction. Regarding what can we do, that is, that's the question that we would love answered. Here's our problem. Yes, the staffing is a problem. We had a test. The motor vehicle test was done in February. We are still waiting for results. So interestingly enough, the legal recording clerk done the same day, February 19th, came through at the beginning of June. And yet no word on motor vehicle. So I don't know the answer there. We've often had to go to the legislature to say what's going on, especially during the earlier parts of COVID. But so that's a real concern that we don't have a list. And we also understand, or what I understand from civil service is that, we didn't have a lot of takers on that exam. It's extremely difficult work, extremely difficult. Learning curve, even filling that position, supervisor this year will provide us very little extra. It takes a good year, 2 years, and things are constantly changing in the DMV. Every day there could be a change. So, but nonetheless, that is how we have to do business. I wish those exams, if it had come back a little bit earlier, we might have been able to at least have some time with a candidate and filling that now. Should it come through anytime in July or August, we probably won't be placing until sometime in September because we don't have anyone to train. We don't have the available resource. I look forward, as you do and all of us do, to that day when we are once again fully staffed and fully trained and with all, as much knowledge as we can have available to service these, our customers. They're great customers, they're good customers. I appreciate very much all supervisors. If there is a problem, please share it with me and have them come to me. It's really between the customer and inside the DMV. There's very little that we can do on negotiation on that. But definitely share, get a hold of Pam Vogel. I will see that the right person inside the DMV addresses.
Okay.
Thank you.
Supervisor McGowan, let the committee finish and then we'll do a non-committee if it's okay. So Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. And as a follow-up to Supervisor Seaver's questioning, a lot of when you get negative press coverage, everyone thinks that that's 100% of what's going on. I'm interested in excuse me, how you've worked with Mr. Lehman to, in addition to the website, to get out information through his sources, including his media sources, to maybe put a positive message on it, or an FYI, right now this is what you have to do, A, B, and C, and we're doing the best that we can, and we've identified that there's areas that we need to improve in, or for the time being, reshuffle ourselves as far as those duties and responsibilities. But I think to me, it's kind of a public relations issue where some people aren't getting the message. I've seen people come to the door and they don't have an appointment, and they get frustrated and upset because they may be coming down from Hague or over from Stony Creek, and that's quite a hike to be sent home, so to speak, even if eventually they can get in after waiting a bit. But can you talk a little bit about strategies for at least trying to
Very briefly, John Lehman and I have had many sharings since he came on board, of course, in March of 2020. His timing was fantastic, I'm sure. But yes, he has carried many messages for the DMV and the county clerk's office. How you reach the people all the time, 100% of the time, it's very difficult, certainly. And, so he offered that. Thank you. He offered, that area is social media, something that, I'm certainly not experienced in, I don't have the time for, and the logistics of. So he offered that, and we have taken advantage of that, sometimes more than others, and but he'll come by if there's something, and we have shared. Sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it doesn't. It depends on what people want to read into it too. It cannot be, a bashing. It should never be a bashing. We try to put out something that we think is current, that at least a good portion of the community might be looking at. But, and then we go to our website and we update that. And then we have handouts right at the security desk. We have things posted on the front of the building. I myself field many, many calls for the public that want to know if our building is open. It's been open since April 12th of 2021. And despite everything that you do here, they don't know if it's open or not. And of course, at one time it wasn't, but for over a year, this building has been, you walk into it. And so you wonder, with the messages, the strong messages that go out all the time, from the board, how do they not know that? How do they not? I don't.
I'm sorry.
Questions remain.
I just,
Efforts tried.
so Pam, in terms of historical revenue generation and in general service to the residents of Warren County, I feel comfortable with the performance and what I see in terms of the revenue generation. And would you agree with that?
I'm pleased with our numbers so far. We're looking at them very closely. We have in the DMV, you have your transactions, you have your online, and then you have your motor vehicle use tax. And as you know, motor vehicle use tax comes to you from wherever the transaction is done. We have a pretty good competitive work plan in terms of meeting customers. There's 52 of county offices out there, but and we're all a little bit different. I wish to say that we could all be cookie cutter the same, but we are not, But I think with our resources, the knowledge level that we have of 90+ years on that counter, and the dealer work that we do, which is exceptional, and the daily transactions, as simple as a $1 plate surrender to some of the most complex transactions that will ever come before a DMV, and some of the most costly ones. There are some in terms of sales tax would absolutely shock you in terms of those numbers. But I think we're doing a very good job. I'm very proud of my staff for the work they do.
Okay, thank you very much. Ma'am.
And our security too.
Thank you.
Other security? Yes, sir. Supervisor Thomas.
Are we still doing appointments because of the wife's there? Is that the reason?
That's the principal reason right now, staffing, vacations. And what happened with the appointments when we loosened that up so much in the early spring, it was contrary to the work efficiency of the office, it turned out.
How many staff are we down?
We're down 2 full-time, plus we have an FMLA, which means that we miss that person periodically.
Okay, any other committee members? Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pam, I know you're working hard and I have a lot of respect for what you do. And don't take this at heart. I'm just going to get to the point. I also feel that a lot of phone calls, people with a disappointment, and I understand being short-staffed. This seems to be a common phenomenon really across the whole country on just about every job holding position that can be available. What I'd like to do is see what we can do to increase the number of walk-ins to allow so many, 3 an hour, or 5 an hour, for a walk-in. Some people don't mind to sit. Right now, we're at the beginning of our season where a lot of people are coming in and they need the registrations, now especially for boats or trailers or whatever. And it's very frustrated. And then to go home and do it online, you're waiting a couple of days. Personally, mine come in, I'll do them online because I just know it's easier and quicker. We do get a percentage. I'd rather give, actually what I do is when I write the check, my check actually fits right into the pink envelope. So I put it in a pink envelope. My check has the address for the county here. And I have to say, I get it back probably quicker than what I get it from Geneseo or whatever. But it's very frustrating for people to come up and end an appointment. Now, if it's basically because of short staff, all right, we have hired people out of positions that haven't taken that test yet because the test is not available. What is the opportunity of hiring someone, all right? And when that test comes available, have them take that test. There's other people out there that might be qualified to do it. And because we've done that in other positions because the test hasn't been available. And if you're going off the test list and we're not getting anyone, then maybe that's where we need to change to get some more people. All right, but I'd like to be able to see, and I don't see a lot of overtime. Can we do overtime there? Keep the counter open a little bit longer, or maybe start a little earlier because the revenue is going to offset. But when you have people walking away, for some big transaction, we're losing money. So, and I understand that, and here we say we're creating a new position for a legal clerk. Why can't we, get someone in the DMV? And if it's over the test issue, how can we circumvent that test process that we do? And they could take that test, at a future date. Is this possible?
Regarding the test, I would have to remind the county that, and yourself, Mr. Supervisor, that you are a civil service and this is a union. Okay, there is a test. It has been done. We are waiting results. I
understand that. Excuse me. I don't mean to interrupt you. I have heard this. I've been here for multiple years now. And I've heard this more than once that we're waiting for the results. We're waiting for the results.
Right.
So, I know this is government. Things take forever to do anything. But this is very frustrating for me to be able to, I really don't understand, and when the people go to other counties and they can walk right in, people got to sit there for an hour and a half and wait. They rather wait an hour and a half so they know it's done. So, we need to allow some more walk-ins and do that. So, but I've heard this before, is the waiting for results, and it's very frustrating.
Those positions are actually came up during this year, so those weren't holdover positions. Okay, understand that those positions that became vacant were just in this year. I think January and February, January and March, if I'm not mistaken, those two positions. So, so they were in time it's probably the most on time we've ever been with a test coming through in February. And then me having a vacancy at the end of January and then one again in March. So, we are in a decent time frame for it. It's just that it takes so long. And then the learning curve after that. I wish there was a pool. I wish New York State had a pool of that they could, float, but that doesn't happen. That is not the real world. So I ask your patience as we go through this process. And especially in the summer, this is a difficult time. So we continue to monitor it. I don't think there's any, personally, I think, we have some other things that we have to address on motor vehicle that we'll do in the future at the board meeting. But generally speaking, please know that we are making every effort we can. When we did lighten that, it threw everything off.
Okay.
It definitely did.
How
And
far did we lighten it? Did we lighten it all the way or did we lighten it a percentage?
we don't go by percentage, sir. We
Okay,
see
so you
100
opened it up all the way and we got flooded.
at the wrong times.
Okay. So my next question is there anybody that is retired? Because some people that go into retirement decide, hey, I
They
can use
don't
one
come back.
and we can go part-time, to get someone in help just, as we're waiting.
I appreciate that. I wish there were.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's get back to
Yeah,
committee.
I just wanted to follow up on Supervisor McGowan's question, which was almost the same question that I asked a couple of years ago. And because we do have so-called pools with health services, Office for the Aging. Next month, I talked to Tammy recently about setting up some type of a labor pool for Countryside Adult Home. But Pam had educated me a couple of years ago about the fact that the skills and the experience necessary to do her job is a little bit different than filling a caseworker or a cook position where you do have a shortfall. As she articulated a little while ago, sometimes it takes a year or 2 years for that person to get up on all the nuances of the position. And it's an excellent question, but I think it's respectfully, it's apples and oranges as compared to other departments within the county. It's a frustration, certainly, Brett, but I think the people who retire from the clerk's office or motor vehicles have expressed that they're not interested in coming back. And so I guess that's, the situation.
Okay. Chairman Garrity?
Yeah, the only thing I can add to this is, please remember, and I've talked to Pam about it. The short staff creates problems. Trying to manage the department by appointments versus walk-ins can create problems for her, but I just ask, and I'm sure she does this on an everyday basis, that we remember the people coming in are constituents and customers of us, and it's actually a state program you're running there, DMV. It's controlled by the state of New York. Wouldn't it be nice if you could have labor pool employees or somebody you could throw out a window? That's the only thing I'll ask is, and I'm sure our employees are cognizant of when people come in, sometimes they're frustrated, sometimes the forms aren't there. Do everything possible to try to ease the somewhat frustrations of the people, and I'm sure you do that on an everyday basis.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Please remember as well, we are still dealing with 5,000 people a month. A couple weeks ago, we had 170 people on a particular day. I had to intervene on 2. That's 0.013. And that's really what your percentages are. They are minimal. If you had if 5,000 people were coming through here upstairs to this board and, but you know it, you would definitely know it. We don't want to, I'm elected as well. 4 years, 5 terms. We don't want to turn people away. When I can intervene, I do. But overall, I think we are responding as best we can. And we'll hope for the labor pool at some point in time. Probably won't be in my tenure, but maybe the state will come up with something.
Okay, committee member Supervisor Conover.
Yeah, I just want to say, Pam, my 12+ years, you do a fabulous job down in the clerk's office and all the features of the clerk's office. And you continue to do a tremendous job down there. I can't remember any major issue. I can't remember there being a moment of worry under your direction in that department. And I think you just hit the nail right on the head. That sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for it, because if you're going to move away from 5,000 a month scheduled appointments and you're going to move to come as you will, and you don't have the structure to be able to handle that, you're going to have chaos. And so I think that you're going to do everything possible to, and let's not forget that if somebody's showing up at the door without an appointment, it's because they're unaware. They're unaware. And so we've tried to make people aware, right? Because if you're aware you have to have an appointment, you make an appointment. And so if you show up, it's because you're unaware. And I wonder in my mind how many a day we're even talking about that are showing up unaware. But we do know we've got thousands showing up monthly that are aware and know they have a scheduled appointment. They know their business is going to be handled in a responsible way and in a timely fashion. And the other thing is you can't have people sitting on the bench for an hour and a half or 2 hours waiting to be serviced. So the control of that flow, the management of that flow is a high responsibility, and I think you're handling it beautifully. And one other thing, it just there's a personal thing is some months back I recognized, oh my God, the registration of my truck had expired, and it was like, oh well, if we got to get this done, we got to get this done quickly. I got on the computer, and I don't claim to be the most computer savvy person, and it was bang, and they print me a temporary registration while my other one's being mailed to me. And I was able to print it out, all of that being handled right there. So for most people, it's a very simple matter of just getting on the computer, and if that's the order of business that they're looking to do. Now, something more complicated, of course, is more complicated, but so I just would put that out there as well. And really, when you stop and you think about it, I know I'm going on at length there, but when I think about my personal affairs, so much of what I do now, I'm required to have an appointment. I mean, right? When you go to see your doctor, don't you have an appointment? When you go to see the dentist, don't you have an appointment? When you go to see your lawyer, don't you have an appointment? I mean, that's, and the reason for that is to maintain the order of the business, to maintain it in an orderly fashion.
Okay, and thank you. And I have to second that, Pam. I think you're doing a wonderful job, given all the adverse circumstances that we've all been facing, you especially. And I want to move on. There's a couple other agenda items. And I firmly believe that if you say there's going to be a Board of Supervisors meeting at 12 o'clock for the public good, for our good, there should be a Board of Supervisors meeting at 12 o'clock. So if rambling on in committees is causing a delay in that, there should not be a delay. It should start at 12. Now, this is the Government Operations Committee, and I'm seeing a consensus. That's the way it should be. So, however, if you have something new to add to this conversation, because I need to move on, you're welcome to do so, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you. Yes, Pam, I do want to I agree with everybody. I want to thank you, and I know you do a good job. And I said at the beginning, it's going to be a little rough sounding, but I really do appreciate it. And I take my hat off to you and everybody down there. I've never had a problem at DMV. They've always been great people. And that's all I want to say. So keep up the great work. I was just hoping maybe we could find a shortcut here. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, County Clerk Vogel.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Next on the agenda is some information from the county attorney for our ability to charge back owners of abandoned properties and the cost of environmental cleanup costs undertaken by the county. Rob, do we have any update on that?
I have a little bit on it that I can add, hopefully, if it helps for everybody. What really, it's an area that generally is preempted by state law and federal law. So our ability to make a local law about doing cleanup costs or regulating it or things like that, or what we're going to charge back based on a local accounting law on it, is very, very limited, almost impossible for us to do that way. We can sue under federal laws, we could sue under state laws, depending on the kind of pollution or contamination damage that it is. Those are remedies that the county has. Bringing a lawsuit, the problem with it is if you're suing an owner of contaminated property who has no money or no other assets, it's really a waste of time to bring the lawsuit because you're not going to get anything. You end up with a judgment that's barely worth the paper that it's printed on because there's nothing to recover from the person. Either they don't have any assets or you add in the value of the judgment against the assets they do have, and now they're qualifying for a bankruptcy. And so they can trot into bankruptcy court and wipe your judgment out there. Probably the best strategy that we've seen to come out, and this came out of the more recent, what was it, the county attorney's conference. Oh, there's a question.
No.
Okay.
One of the North Country towns, I believe.
The county attorney's conference, there was an issue with that, and the speaker brought up about it. An effective way to do it, and we've done this ourselves, is to team up with the DEC, the Environmental Spill Compensation Fund, and they do the cleanup work on it. The DEC will also issue a release of liability to the county if we take it in foreclosure, which is what we want. The county doesn't want to be held responsible for contamination the county didn't cause on property. If we're taking it by tax foreclosure, which seems to end up happening a lot of times, the property was maybe used by someone, it got into a delinquent tax situation, it's been polluted, it stays that way for a while, the taxes don't get paid. The county didn't want to take ownership of the property through foreclosure and then be liable for that environmental damage if it sold the property at a tax sale auction. So the property just would sit there for a while and build up more and more delinquent taxes on it. The best way to do it is to team up with the DEC. We get a release of liability from the state that the county is not going to be liable as an innocent owner. There's already provision on that in federal law. They started doing that in 1986 on the federal laws, that if you're, I call it an innocent owner, you acquire the property, you didn't cause the pollution, you're not even maybe aware of the pollution, but you definitely didn't cause it. You're not going to be liable for that just because you became the owner of it at a later date. We want to get that from the DEC, that kind of release and liability, and let them do the spill compensation fund, come in and work and do their work on cleaning it up, and that the property can then be sold afterwards at tax auction. The county gets money there. The state AG, the Attorney General's office, will go after people to recover on the state if they can, and they'll bring a lawsuit through the Attorney General's office to try to get recovery on it. And that's really where we would be at too, if we wanted to, would be to go after the person through a lawsuit. But again, you got to make sure who's your defendant on it. Are we suing someone that's got assets, or is there insurance on the property that would pay? And this, you want to get a check from the insurance company or something. We don't want to be going after. It's a waste of time is what I mean. Not, we don't want to go after. It's a waste of time to sue a defendant who has no money and has no insurance and has no assets, because even if you win, you're not going to collect anything. You've got a nice piece of paper that says you were right, and that's it.
Okay, so in summary, there's two things. You can sue for it or maybe ally with the DEC and
for cleanup on it. And again, to make sure we follow on what rights we have under state and federal laws to go after a polluted property and the owners of it. And I would also say, let's not let it go too long. If we know there's a piece that's polluted, it owes back taxes and it's polluted, let's start talking with the DEC and work out something and see. So maybe we can get involved sooner rather than later and not have it sit there for many, many years with delinquent taxes and this pollution, doing whatever, getting worse and worse or seeping into neighboring parcels and things like that. So get working on it as soon as possible, get the liability released for the county and get it foreclosed upon. The state cleans it up. The AG's office will bring lawsuits if they want to recover on their end. The county will have a piece of property that we can then sell and get back on the tax rolls.
all right. Questions for county council? No easy solution. Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Terwilliger, I want to thank you very much. I know we've been working on it. You know my passion is, but you said the key thing, all right, is moving quicker on these properties and not waiting years. I want to thank you. And I'd like to, for my sake and for the county, is to do whatever we can to keep these actions moving quickly and get it down there so the state can help us out. Because, when you wait all these years and then everybody runs out of money and then the insurance gets lapped and there's nothing there, even though it becomes such a legal process, and I understand. So thank you very much. And we'll talk soon on that.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor McGowan.
Okay, well, thank you, Supervisor Driscoll. Any other committee? All right, Supervisor Hogan?
Nope, nothing.
Oh, no. All right. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, County Council. Next item is mission statement. Now, there was a March 2022 draft, there was a November 2021 draft, and I have a suggestion too. I think if you remove the grandstanding, you remove the flourish, you get down to the basic of what your mission statement is without all the flourish. I suggested a very simple mission statement. The rest of them sounded to me like you're adding more than you need to, but that's only me. Supervisor Conover?
I agree with you completely on that. That should be clean, right to the point. It shouldn't try to make any type of subordinate statement, subtle or explicit. Crystal clear.
Okay, any other?
I agree with that, going with your suggestion.
Other committee thoughts?
In the not-for-profit world, we've been told or recommended to us to keep it short and sweet, and I would agree that the recommendation is that.
Right. Other committee thoughts? Other than committee thoughts? Committee thoughts? Supervisor Thomas.
I'll put forward Chairman Strauss' suggestion.
All right, motion put forward to approve my suggestion.
Can you read it out loud, please?
Certainly can. Warren County works for its Warren County residents, semicolon. Funding, which means it's related to the subordinate statement. Funding is to be dedicated to protecting and enhancing our residents' quality of life by providing excellent services and in a cost-effective manner.
To the point.
All right, and the motion was seconded by what, Council Supervisor McDivitt? Frazier? Okay. So it's been placed on the table. Further discussion? All right, let's vote. All those in favor of my suggestion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Motion passes. Next item. There has been discussion, and it's moving in the background a little bit, that we create a records access officer, relieve that job duty from the administrator's office, because the administrator's office has many other things to do. Create a separate position for FOIL and other records requests in an independent agency. So we are researching the possibilities, and I will bring to the committee some of what we found out for your thoughts and consideration in the future. So if, for the sake of, I wanted to be done by 10, there's 2 other committees following this one, and I really think we should start the Board of Supervisors meeting at 12. All right, reimbursements to supervisors for non-education related expenses. County administrator, county attorney to draft a list of official duties for supervisors to be presented for consideration at a future meeting. Can we do that at a future meeting? Consideration of adding Juneteenth as the official county holiday. I do believe this was brought up in negotiations committee. I don't know where it went. But again, we're not talking about this year. This is the topic we can keep on the agenda for the next time we have a meeting, if you don't mind. Okay. Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board resolution opposing Senate Bill 1145, conservation subdivision design. I read through that. I still don't know what it's doing. So if there's somebody that would explain that to me and perhaps others, I'm all ears. But I still don't know what's going on there. I'm sorry.
It didn't,
Supervisor.
move forward through the legislature. Again, it's laying in wait down there.
Maybe everyone else is just as confused.
They will let it get.
All right. Discussion regarding amending the rules of the board to indicate that all resolutions are adopted by a simple majority vote. Can we defer that discussion for our next meeting as well? Is that okay? All right. Privilege of the floor to discuss any additional items. All right, motion to adjourn. Motion made by Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor McDivitt. All those in favor of adjourning this committee, please signify by saying aye.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any nays? Any adjournment? All right.